Welcome to my office. I am here with two discerners, and they are actually from Emmaus House. So they live with me in our Women's Discernment House in East Lansing. How cool is this? So we have Laura and Rosie. And I'm just going to ask them a few questions because I think it's really important for people to see how God's working personally in your life. So whoever wants to jump in first, how did you start discerning, and how do you know that God was inviting you to discern more deeply what his will was for your life? How do you sense the Lord?
Well, for me, it started out very young, but it was just like something like God was calling me to something more. So I would have conversations with my friends and be like, oh yeah, when I get married, we're going to plan wearing this dress and I'm going to have this many kids. And it just like kind of felt shallow in that aspect. And I just knew that like God wanted something more out of my life. Not that marriage isn't a beautiful vocation, but I just always knew that God was calling me to something extra.
Nice. Laura?
Yeah. For me, it wasn't so expected. So around the time that I got confirmed, I started feeling this nudge to look into religious life in the way that I was getting a daily sense that thinking about religious sisters and thinking about nuns, and I had never had that before. I didn't know where it was coming from. I hadn't been exposed to sisters or to religious life other than the priesthood through my own parish priest.
How did you know about sisters then?
I don't really know. I think maybe through I had a pop culture sense of nuns, and so it wasn't a super positive connotation whatsoever. It was,
Sister Act?
Yeah. And so I didn't really know what the life was like, but the thought wouldn't leave me alone. And so I started doing some research and found an order that had a discernment retreat, and I decided to go on that to see what religious life was like.
Were you surprised? Were you?
Yeah, I kind of went to get rid of the idea. I didn't want to be a sister, and so it's like, okay, well, I'll go on the retreat and I won't like the sisters, and that'll be that, and I'll just, move on with life, discern marriage. That's what I'm going to do. But then I went and I really liked the sisters, and I realized that that was a life that maybe wasn't so crazy for me, that maybe I could be very, very happy, even happier and more fulfilled in that life than the one that I had envisioned for myself.
Nice. So many people want to know, how do I really know if it's God's will for my life, something he's leading? And it could be just buying a house, or it could be, what college to go to, but how do you get that sense that it's God who's leading? I mean, how do you describe your desires in that, or that it's God's movement leading you to something?
Well, in a way, I would say it's God normally doesn't place things on our hearts that we don't desire, in a way. So if God is really calling you something, he'll make you desire it. So even as I was discerning religious life when I was young, I wasn't just oh, this is going to be great, this is going to be easy. It was as I went on that things started to really click, and I realized even visiting sisters or seeing the different lives that they led, just seeing that, it really made me realize that this is the way that God will make me happy. And it's kind of like that in every way where he's calling you somewhere. Even if you're oh, I don't want to go to this college, I want to go to this one, but it seems like everything's kind of falling in place for you to go to a certain place, or for you to make a certain choice. That's normally God leading you through little, just I don't want to say a sign because that's so cliche, but he does leave us little markers along the path to let us know this is where he's taking us. And he will open your heart to whatever it is.
Yeah, and with that, I think there's one of the signs, so to speak, is a sense of peace. It might not come right away, but it might be sudden, and it might be something that you just suddenly realize, oh, actually I am at peace with this idea or with this decision. And I think that's definitely a big thing to look out for and to pay attention to, because he will give you peace if that's where he's calling you to. So.
And so even with I mean, what about the desire for men? I mean, doesn't that come sometimes? And how do you distinguish the difference between, okay, I desire, dating somebody, or this person's attractive in my life? Is there something that tells you not to pursue that, and like there's something more for you, or have you grappled with that before?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We're normal, healthy people, we promise. But I would say that the thing that always comes to mind for me anyway, in the moment, like, I'm feeling a certain way, but you can't always just live in the moment. You have to live for, like, ultimately what's going to happen. So even when you're in a situation where you're, like, considering, like, do I sin here or not? Like, obviously that would be a sin, but when you're in those kind of moments, you have to think ahead. Like, what's going to happen next? Is this going to lead to the next best thing? Or is this something that I need to avoid? And in my experience with, like, all the different men in my life, and it's just been, I've obviously had crushes and, like, liked a lot of guys and all sorts of stuff, and then it's just certain moments where you're like, this could go somewhere, but this isn't the best. Like, this wouldn't be bad for me to pursue this, but this isn't ultimately where I'm supposed to take this path at the moment.
So you can feel like that it's not the best, that there's a better path, that there's something in you that kind of says that to you, speaks to you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Along with that, yeah. Terrible way of saying that. But discerning through that, just praying with it. Kind of, we live a lot in the moment, as you were saying, with living in emotions, and it's important to step away from that to say, what's really going on here, what's deeper in this, and recognizing if this is something that's going to be fulfilling, because we can all plan our futures out in our mind of, oh, yep, we're going to get married, and then we're going to have these kids, and we're going to live here, and
the first boy's going to be named John.
Yeah. And if we have twins, they're going to be named after Benedict and Scholastica. But you can, when you are praying about that, hopefully, with me, there's that sense of there's peace with what God wants you to do, with that this is a good option, that He is giving you a choice. You have a free choice, and He's never going to punish you for this. You can have a wonderful, fulfilled life doing something different, but you won't be as fulfilled. There'll always be that little piece of your heart that's just not satisfied, that's not quite there. And I think that you can tell that even before you make the choice. I think that through prayer,
yeah,
you can.
That's where I want to go to, just to see, like, that takes prayer, right? Because to be sensitive to God and His movements in your heart, you have to be in tune with Him. So what does that look like for you? How do you get to that deep level with God to be able to resonate so nicely with His voice that you can experience that,
Well, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time. Like any relationship, you have to commit time to it. So, like, regularly commit, like, a certain portion of the day. For me, I always have, like, right around noon, I always have a half hour that I dedicate to prayer. And I'll pray at other times of the day, too, but that's, like, my period of time where I'll either read a gospel story or I'll have, like, a specific section of the Bible that I'm working on. And that's the period of time where I just let God talk to me. There'll be other times throughout the day where I'm interceding for other people, or I have, like, something that I need or something that I want, or, like, certain things that I want to say, certain answers I want to get. But I try to have that period of time just be, God, whatever you want me to hear, speak to me here. And He doesn't always do that. He doesn't always tell me anything. And then most of the time when He does tell me stuff, it's not either stuff I didn't want to know or stuff that I don't feel like is necessary at the time. It always ends up working out because, He's God and He has a bigger plan. But just leave Him that space to be docile to what He has to say.
Would you say something similar, or do you have a little...
Yeah, similar. Adding on to that, find Him in the everyday. Find Him in your daily life and make time for Him while you're running about and doing different things. As we're running to class, as we're in class. You can even find time in those moments to just be like, God, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this class period. Thank you for this beautiful weather that I'm walking through today. Or thank you for the snow that I'm walking through today. Thank you for the warm coat to keep the snow away from me. And just moments to share, like, God, this was wonderful, this moment of my day. Or I'm really stressed right now, and if you could help me out with that, that's great. If you can let me know what the purpose of this stress is, that would be really wonderful. But that's up to you. And to find him in the everyday, and to start your day with prayer too. To wake up and say, God, I give this day to you. Let your first words and the last words you say every day be a prayer.
Beautiful. That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to say to discerners, or did you get a good glimpse of your discernment walk? Discernment walk.
I think it was good.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Not
We're here.
alone.
Do not be afraid.
Seriously. God's plan is the best plan for you. So.
Amen. Thank you, listeners and watchers.